Good morning, everyone. Welcome, if you survived yesterday's party. My name is Dmytro. I'm working for Freeletics as a software engineer. Freeletics is a fitness company building software to enable users and all the people in the world to achieve their goals, personal goals, like getting better to the shape of their life. But nevertheless, I'm going to talk today about some login experience. Let me ask the following question. Have you ever considered like how often do you need to do a login inside your app? Think about it for a moment. You open one app, you see the screen, and then another, and another, and more. It's like never-ending story, and in some moment you think like, wow, it's a lot. Like, what's going wrong? What's going on here? Like, is it normal or not? Like, basically, every app which you install, you have to do literally similar procedure all the time to register and then to log in. But let me start with why. Why would you ever bring to your app login functionality? First of all, it's a privacy. Most probably, you would like to hide private and sensitive content, such as bank account or personal data, like address or like payment history, and so on. So, in nowadays, privacy is really important, and this is one of the ways to restrict the access to this private information. Another reason is that it's personalized content. What do I mean by that? It means that imagine the app for meeting people like Meetup. In your city, you're most probably not interested in all the other meetups happening around. Otherwise, it will be like overwhelmed, and it will be like really hard to find something suitable. But if it's like personalized for you, where you just like specified which meetups you're interested, or if it's like podcast app, where you define which podcast you're interested or which categories, then you get delivered only personalized content. And this was another reason why would you bring login functionality and sign-in functionality to your app. But thankfully, we don't need to worry that much nowadays, and we're gonna check through all the existing solutions and how to make the login as smooth as possible. One of the options is to log in with Facebook. I know, like, we can like Facebook, we can hate Facebook as a platform, but this is not about that. It's more about that the platform actually reported that in 2018, at the end of 2018, it was more than 2.3 billion active users on daily basis, on monthly basis, sorry. And we cannot simply ignore that fact. Like, it's a huge amount of people. Just think about it. You could easily, it's a good channel to reach those people, to give them a way, an opportunity to register inside your app just in one click using the using Facebook account. And those people also actually really easy to reach afterwards. Once you acquire the attention of those customers, later on, it's possible to deliver through advertisements and other content. Let's think more about in perfect world where like no one is evil and doesn't try to manipulate with the data. But like in a perfect scenario, if your product and the company is doing well, most probably you would deliver only qualitative content. So it's really good channel to achieve the users. And once we implemented the Facebook registration inside our app, the split was like 50-50. 50% of users still prefer to log in with email and password. However, the other half started to prefer to log in with Facebook. Well, this was already beneficial. Another option which is possible to do is to log in with Google. I would say it's more convenient on Android because almost every, I mean, not almost, every Android device you can log in with Google account in order to get more benefits out of it. And that's why if your app supports registration and login with Google, it's already way smoother for users on Android to proceed further within your app. For iOS, it might be not that convenient, but we can get back to that later. When we implemented the sign-in with Google, we thought, OK, split might be around 30%, so like 30% Google, 30% Facebook, and 30% email password. By the way, this is how it looks like on Android when you do like Google sign-in. So you just see the list of all the accounts available inside your app, and then you pick one and proceed further. So going back to the data, this was like distribution on Android. So you can see that the data is, I picked like 1 month. I assume that all other months is relatively similar. Picked 1 month for different platforms and analyzed it. And I discovered that for Android, majority prefers to log in with Google. So no surprise. And nevertheless, still like a significant amount prefers to log in with Facebook, and only a small amount does it with a password. However, on iOS, it was slightly different, and that could explain why. Because like on iOS devices, you're not forced to have a Google account on your device. This is one of the reasons. And the majority seems like to prefer to use a password. I thought about that. Potentially, it could be the reason that people would have some concerns regarding privacy and security, but I don't have like real answer to that. But nevertheless, this is how distribution looks on iOS, which is like a little bit different. Like what we would expect, like 30%, 30%, 30%. Besides Facebook and Google, there are still a lot of many other OS providers, like Twitter, Microsoft, LinkedIn, Instagram, a lot of them. There are like tons of them. And whenever you build your product, you might think, first of all, who's your end user? If your app is focused for developers, then potentially signing with GitHub or with Stack Overflow is one of the best options. If your end users is more like a social network and so on, then login with Facebook or login with Twitter could be a good option. So we would always need to consider what our the end user, and then to pick a proper and suitable way to log in and to register inside the app. By the way, this is Gerald. To be more precise, like hide the pain, Harold. What I want to say about that, like before leaving the conference, my colleague asked me, so what are you going to talk today? I told him, I'm going to speak about different sign-in processes like authentication and so on. And he said, yeah, but how are you going to do that without backend? And this was like really right question. So whenever you think about adding one more provider to your app, you start thinking, all right, it's a good opportunity to bring more users and to have like more wider features. But at the same time, you need to implement like on both platforms. You need to implement backend. You need to think about custom user management system, how you see like all those users. What if someone would like to revoke an access? What if like some implementation is specifically needed? So it's definitely like needed a lot of time. So whenever I think like, wow, it's a good option, we need to have it inside the app. But at the same time, it's, oh my God, it's so much. But we have a solution. The solution is Firebase. So in Firebase, there is an option called Firebase Authentication, as far as I remember. And it provides a really nice and smooth way to add sign-in, sign-up functionality to your app. So let's move slowly through it and check which features it has. One of them is it has already, so the SDK from Firebase has already a pre-built UI. So there are few SDKs. One of them is to performing authentication only, and another is already with pre-built UI. I took this example from GitHub because their examples and their SDK is open source. You can go there, check it out. This is how it looks like with pre-built UI. Bring that UI to your app, and the functionality is already ready. Like start using login with Twitter out of the box. So sounds easy, and it's indeed easy. I mean, another option is that with Firebase authentication, it's possible to bring a lot of different providers. So it has support of multiple providers. From which of them, you could see here. It supports Google, Facebook, Twitter, GitHub, Microsoft. Actually, almost everything what I mentioned there. This is how the panel looks like. And it's also possible to do authentication with email and phone number. And in addition to that, it's still possible to add even a custom authentication provider. Imagine then your company would like to implement functionality and to bring all the other clients in order to perform sign-in with your company. So for example, I'm working for Freeletics, and then if Freeletics at some point decides that everyone can now log in with Freeletics credentials to somewhere else, it would be possible also to bring it to Firebase authentication. What sounds actually promising. Another option is that Firebase has user account management, management system. It means that after you have after user registered, you would see the table. So this is how it would look like. It gives an opportunity to manage all the users over there which registered to you. From security reasons, you don't see the password of a user, but it's possible to revoke an access, to delete an account, to perform user logout, or to change user data. And in Firebase Console, all accounts are visible, and it's possible to link those accounts within each other. If one user did a sign-in with Facebook, and later on he did a sign-in with Google, then it would be possible to connect those accounts. In addition to that, with Firebase, what Firebase does for us, it manages refresh token lifecycle. So we don't need to think about refreshing token every 10 minutes or refreshing token every some period of time. So what is good? Firebase is doing that already for us. It has anonymous access and account linking. Account linking I just mentioned. What is anonymous access? Imagine a situation that you would like to guide your users through the app like a registered user, but without registration. So give user an opportunity to anonymously sign in inside the app to explore it, but in order to perform some action, like perform payment or perform some friendship connection, you would need to register. So in this case, you would use this functionality of anonymous access. And Firebase gives an opportunity to use this feature. And in addition to that, it gives an opportunity to convert those users who did anonymous registration to real registration. On Firebase, functionality exists also about email sign-up. So it's full email sign-up support. What does it mean? It means that there is email verification included over there. There's a functionality for resetting the password. There is a functionality to change the email. There's even possible to do sign-in without a password. And possible to set up a custom SMTP setup. If you go to Firebase and check this custom email setup, when I checked, I was really surprised. Wow, everything is generated already for me. The template to confirm my email, the template to reset a password, everything is already there. And it's so convenient. You don't even need to think about it, how to implement it on your backend. Because this is something what we I think almost in every app, whenever you need to bring sign-in functionality, you think about all of those cases and try to cover it. Not only from client side, but also from backend side. And it's kind of a routine, which you just do over and over and over. And here, everything's already available out of the box. I think it's a really good tool. But what we need to remember, there are still some limitations. One of them is the usage limit. Even though it sounds so easy to use it, then you could imagine that everyone would like to switch to start using it. And therefore, there is a limitation such as you cannot perform more than 100 account actions from same IP address in 1 hour. And you cannot perform more than 500 requests in 1 second. Would bring some scalability issues, but if you think about it, if you want to launch a product which has relatively small user base, this could be a good option. Most probably you wouldn't hit the limit at the beginning. Another option which is possible to do here is to use the support of custom cloud functions. So you could extend your functionality with login and sign in with additional cloud functions if you would go to Firebase and specify additional actions which would perform on each user registration, simple action count or whatsoever. Then it's also possible. And besides that, most probably you would start thinking, okay, I build a product, I'm launching the product, we integrate Firebase authentication, everything works smooth, we started growing like crazy, and in 1 year you start hitting the limits. That Firebase is not able to manage all your system because it's already way too much users. If you have 10 million users, then it could be a problem. And here, where Firebase helps you to do account import and export, it is possible to do an export of all the registered user either in JSON or CSV format. So you just grab it, export, establish your backend, because most probably at that moment of time you would need it already, and bring all the users from that exported file. I think it's a good option if I might repeat again, but it's a good option if you're gonna launch some small product and you would need to go fast and don't be blocked by other platforms like custom backend. All right, enough about Firebase. Let's move on. Let's think now about classic email login. So what's wrong with that? Whenever you open the app, you would see this typical fields. Put your email, phone number, and a password. First of all, you have to type. We know that from user experience, it's not the best action. When a user somewhere in underground or in a bus, he needs to type, it's a little bit annoying. And then when some typo is made, then you have to go and correct it. So it's definitely not that good. Second, you need to remember, from security reasons, it's always advised not to use the same password all over the time, everywhere, on different accounts. It's advised to have many different passwords for different accounts. And then nowadays, if you start thinking, we have a lot of accounts. A bank account, registered at Spotify, Facebook, then working email, home email, and then Twitter, GitHub, Stack Overflow, and goes, and it's a lot. It's relatively hard to remember. When it's only 2 or 3 passwords, it's easy. But when it goes over 100, yeah, it's hard. But the most annoying thing, for me personally, is that whenever you register and you type a password, then there's like error. Oh, but your password should be like at least n numbers, like n characters. You type it and then it says, but it should contain at least one number. All right? You put a number and then it should contain at least one character, like special character, or at least like one capital letter. And then like, wow, it's a really complex password. First of all, it's already like painful to register. Second, you have to remember this so complex password. What could we do with that? Let's think about it. One of the options which Google introduced recently from API 26 is to use the Autofill framework. With Autofill framework, everything what you need to do is to your input field. In our case, it's edit text. We define Autofill hint, where you specify which type of the field it is. If it is a password or if it is email, because it's possible to put there different kind of data, like username, like credit card data, or address. It will be like associated with a service, whenever, depending like which service you'll pick it up. And it's also possible to do it for custom views. There are many different services. For example, I'm Samsung user, and on Samsung there is already pre-built system, Samsung Pass, to store all the passwords. So in order to enable the system to store all my passwords, I need to specify, like passwords or accounts, I need to specify to that field, like Autofill framework. And then the system will be using it. In case you are not using the Samsung, only using Samsung Pass app, you could install many other apps. It's possible to go to Play Store, search over there, password manager, and you might end up with KeyPass or LastPass, or many other password managers, which will be doing relatively the same, where they will keep storing all the passwords. Once you registered, it will be associated with your account, which is accessible through the master password, and then like next time you decide to log in within the app, it will be already like way smoother. SmartLock. SmartLock is a feature available on both in Chrome and on Android, and it's using Credentials API from Google to save user credentials. So once user registered or logged in on device, then next time he will be suggested to, with a SmartLock functionality, it will suggest the user to proceed with that functionality. Google did some research and discovered that the SmartLock feature is very underused. So here's like the link where they did a research and put all the results of their research. And they discovered that, so they kind of like asked many other companies to start using SmartLock and compare the results within sign in and sign up, like what was the results. And many companies reported that they had like significant increase either in registration or conversion rate, and also they had decrease in sign-in failures. It means that if user tries to sign in or sign up and then hits a failure, he tries to recover with it, he uses the error dialog, and he tries to fix it, or even sometimes contacting customer support. So they saw that there was like a decrease. Companies like New York Times had reported that around 80% new sign-in events were like more than 80% new sign-in events were achieved with SmartLock functionality. Like LinkedIn reported that it was like 10% increase. So within that link, like case studies, you could find all the results and the researches which were made from Google. And Google actually like asked, this feature is heavily underused. It's better if more companies would use it because it brings like nice functionality. yeah, so this is what I mentioned, and I thought after that, okay, but let's think how to implement SmartLock support. Should be easy, and check like documentations and like, okay, it's everything available in documentation. Why do I need to talk about that? Instead of that, I would like to present something better. It's called Eric SmartLock. At the end, it is a wrapper around SmartLock using Eric Java functionality. It's an open source solution in an organization which I'm working for. Let's check quickly how it works. So in order to save user credentials, everything what is needed is a single line. You access the function save credentials, put the credentials over there, perform like typical Eric Java functionality like subscribe, and after that it will be saved. You don't need to think about You don't need to think about how to work with credentials API. This is how SmartLocks looks like. So this dialog is native dialog from Android. Whenever you start using like credentials API, it appears automatically. So it's not something we're building and not something what we need to care about it, but it just like pops up to us and asks if we need to save or not. And then like credentials API will take care of it. In order to retrieve stored passwords, what we need to do is to call function retrieve credentials, to subscribe to it, and we'll get it. In case of success, we'll get the stored credentials, and after that we just proceed like regular sign in. So this is how it would look, how the dialog, again, like native dialog from credentials API would look like. Whenever you would like to log in within your app, using SmartLock, the dialog pops up, you pick up an account, get all the credentials, and move on with regular sign-in process. Like, because you receive your credentials and just send your credentials to your backend of like to Firebase in order to enter the app. The library is available on I think like it was Maven repository, and what I want to additionally mention to that is that some time ago I also was presenting this talk on another conference, and besides that, there was another talk, and the speaker was talking about that how it's possible to hack your app or to steal all your data with a library with single line, and it was like, oh, but my app is also using kind of like single line. What can I do with it? And I thought about, okay, I will check it out. First of all, library is open source. You always can go there and check what it's actually doing. Second, I want to guarantee that it doesn't steal any user data. We didn't put any Bitcoin mining or any catching user data. And in addition to that, because of course it's using transitive dependencies, the dependencies which is used inside, it is Eric Java, it's Google Play services, and Android support. So not that much. But again, if you don't trust, link is available over there. The library is at GitHub. Feel free to go and check it out. And then, and even if you find some problems, feel free to create pull requests to it. Okay, another thing which I wanted to talk is fingerprint API. It is very interesting. It also caught my attention, and this was the reason why. First of all, it is secure because fingerprint is kind of unique and provides relatively high level of security for each of the user. Second, it is fast. What can be faster than just putting your finger to a scanner and then the process is done? It's even faster than clicking on some dialog. I'm not comparing even with typing your own password. In addition to that, it's easy. It's kind of like same as fast, but it's also like relatively easy to do it. But in order to implement it, there are like some requirements to do it. First of all, it is available only from API 26. So this is something what we need to take into account, that it's like relatively high API. Second, it's a hardware requirement. Obviously, we need to have fingerprint sensor on the device. User needs to enable lock screen within his smartphone in order like to lock and unlock with fingerprint, because Android manages fingerprints for us. In order to enable lock screen, user also needs to registers all his fingerprints, and user needs to grant some permissions to that, to fingerprint scanner. And I thought also about that if it's something what we need to bring it to the app and start heavily using it. And the answer in that case was, it depends. It depends on what we want to do within the app. If you're doing like really top security, it's like really needed, and privacy is the main feature of the app. Like, imagine you're building like banking app. Yes, then using fingerprint API is definitely beneficial. If it is an app like for meeting people like Meetup, most probably it's not beneficial, because the effort of implementing it is slightly higher than compared to other things. And in most cases, fingerprint API is used for authentication, rather like to confirm that user is buying something, like buying some train tickets or doing some purchases to some concerts, for example. But nevertheless, I thought that yes, it's mostly should be like used for authentication, but it still should be possible to do registration. I checked like API how it looks like. So for API 28, it is relatively simple to do it. Why? Because there is also pre-built UI over there, which is accessible through the biometric prompt builder. What we need to provide over there is a title, like description, responses for buttons, and this is it. Like at the end, it will be like handled everything for us. What we need to process is the callbacks which we're receiving from that native dialog. This is how the dialog would look like. So this dialog is coming from SDK. So I thought it's like, yeah, this is very convenient. The only disadvantage is available only from API 28, like Android Pie. But in case you would like to reach more users and using like API 26, when Fingerprint API was available, it is possible to use Fingerprint Manager Compat, where you need to perform authentication and process results in a callbacks. But in that case, there is no pre-built UI. This is a disadvantage. So there is like an example available also on GitHub from Google Samples, how they built it. So this is a custom UI. This is the UI which they have in the samples, meaning that you need to think about it. So from one side, it's a good advantage that you could like really customize the UI and ask user in a different way, bring more clarity, what you're going to perform. On the other hand, it's additional some effort. And yeah, as I said, we need always like to think the case when we'd like to use it. On that note, I want to make a statement that having happy users within your app, it's really important. Because if we think about it, that it's not that nice when users are trying to register, they hit on a lot of failures, and then they giving up. When they install the app and they see again like the problem with registration or like facing the problem with login, they're getting frustrated. Most probably they don't want to use your app anymore. They will give like 1 star, they install and they gone. That's why that way we need to think that it's important to have that. Yeah, I think I'm done. Thank you.